We are live with your post-daily news update for Thursday, January the 6th. There we go. I'm getting like a weird echo. Are you hearing this?
Yeah, you probably have a browser on.
Oh, dear.
Your YouTube browser, probably.
That is exactly what I have as I was checking the link beforehand. It's like, why am I hearing myself? Well, we're off to a professional start. I am John Pollock alongside Wai Ting. How are you, Wai? And are you tired of talking to me yet this week?
No. I feel like we're just getting started here. Jumping back into routine. So getting used to it is what I would say.
Well, we have a lot to discuss today. Hello to everyone in the chat room. If you want to throw in your super chats, we will make time for those at the end of the program, and we're going to catch up on some stories today. But I did want to start off with the passing of Strong Kobayashi, who is a name that is from a bygone era, but a certain significance that he holds within the history of Japanese wrestling, primarily throughout the 60s, 70s, and into the 80s. Strong Kobayashi, he was 81 years old. He passed away a couple of days ago on the 2nd of January. And you can see on the screen there's a great bio by Greg Oliver, our friends over at Slam Wrestling. He did travel over to the AWA, and in later years when he was working with New Japan, would come over with the affiliation between New Japan and the WWF. So he certainly did have his time over here, but his history is largely in Japan, where he started his career and was most affiliated with the IWE organization, the International Wrestling Enterprises promotion. He was their champion from June of 1971 until November of 73, swapped the title with Wahoo McDaniel, and then as champion, he went over to New Japan in 1974 without dropping the title for this enormous match with Antonio Inoki happening in December of 74. And this was a huge match given the stakes of, the champion of one company coming to fight Inoki, who was the NWF champion at that point. And from then on, he worked with New Japan throughout the 70s and into the 80s. He wrestled until 1984 and then did a comeback match in 92, marking the 20th anniversary of New Japan, teaming with Seiji Sakaguchi, who was one of his several partners he had throughout his career. But there's a lot that can be shared and read and studied about Strong Kobayashi, a very significant historical figure in Japanese pro wrestling. So once again, passing away at the age of 81. And that news had just come out recently today. So our condolences to Kobayashi and his family. Let's continue away with the WWE cuts. We did touch upon them on Wednesday night on Rewind to Dynamite and the key names. One more added to the list is Gabe Sapolsky, who had put out a tweet essentially stating as much, that his time there was over. That was confirmed by PWInsider.com. And, another figure of that you associate with the black and gold era of NXT, and of course the history of professional wrestling over the past 25 years. Gabe Sapolsky very much intertwined from his time in ECW, launching, being part of that group that launched Ring of Honor in 2002. And listen, a guy that, put in a lot into professional wrestling, and sort of at the end of the end of the road was this job with WWE, where he finally had some security. So another, a guy with a ton of experience out there. And I guess everyone will be curious to see if there is a next chapter for him within professional wrestling, or what will be next. But another name to, unfortunately, add to the list.
And a few hours are removed, I think, from the first set of cuts. This one doesn't feel as shocking or as much of a surprise, but it's nonetheless very disappointing. We're talking about somebody who throughout the last decade was Booker of the Year several times over. And I would say a man responsible for so much of the, top stars of today being successful as they are, in a CM Punk and a Bryan Danielson. So, as far as I'm concerned, really kind of legendary, as far as, the current wrestling boom goes of the modern generation. So you hope that there's a spot for him, but are there permanent spots?
Not a lot of booking jobs that are out there in a major capacity. And the idea of going back and, starting something on the independent level, that's a tough transition to make. I think he could contribute a lot to many different companies, but it's always going to come down like booking jobs. They're very few and far between.
Yeah, and maybe it's not booking anymore. Maybe, I mean, is
It could
Gabe
be
even
something else.
Would Gabe even be interested? We don't really know. I mean, the to me, one of the greatest insights we've had of him is the episode of The Wrestlers focusing on Evolve that Damien conducted, and it makes you wonder, like, what this guy's long term like desire is to do this, for the rest of his life. Maybe he'll just want to, like, grow that Neurosis record collection or something instead.
It's also like an interesting subject to look into, that of course you feel for all these people that have lost their jobs, and there's too many to count. It's also like I wonder about like the mindset of a lot of the people that are in there. Like, if you have ever been part of a company where it goes through layoffs, like, it's awful for the people that lose their jobs, but the ones who are staying around and seeing these people go, it's devastating, and it's become part of the norm now. I can't imagine what the morale is like. Like, wrestling is an industry that in and of itself, there is a certain walking on eggshells nature, especially in a company like WWE. And you compound that with this new culture of frequent firings, that any day you walk in, it could come out of the blue. Like, one night we're producing this big New Year's Evil special, and the next day you're just slashing all of these jobs. And for the people that are still there, and suddenly familiar faces are gone, veterans, people that you have known since you walked in the door, like in the case of a Regal, and now they're gone. Like, what is left of the people who have to carry the ship, and who are going to fill a lot of these positions? It's not as though we're hearing about all these hirings that are coming in. It's a lot going out and fewer going in.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it's a change in direction. So it largely, I think, depends on who you are. If you're a college athlete, maybe this is, I don't know, your opportunity. This is your time to maybe jump into the system. But if you're anybody, coming up through the indie ranks, as has been the case for the past several years, I mean, it feels like this door is closing.
So on Wednesday night's episode of Dynamite, unfortunately, there were a pair of injuries. Rey Fenix was the one that you got to see if you were watching on television, where he took the chokeslam off the apron by Luchasaurus. And both Mike Johnson at PW Insider and Brian Alvarez reporting that miraculously, it sounds like it was just a dislocation rather than a break of the arm, which for anyone that saw this, that's really hard to imagine, that it was only a dislocation. But it may be a case where Rey Fenix avoided a worst case scenario here, because it looked absolutely devastating.
Miraculous is right. I mean, if you see any sort of break like that, it definitely sticks with you. And I mean, my wife is a physiotherapist, and I've asked her, hey, like, is there a chance like this could just be a dislocation? And she said likely not. So the fact that it is, I think, is a miracle. So we hope that he's able to come back in a few weeks' time. More importantly, I mean, less about maybe the time being away. It's more so about the potential permanent damage to an arm from an injury like this. So hopefully he can make a full, or as full as possible of a recovery.
Yeah, absolutely. The other one was Jake Atlas, who had the match with Adam Cole as part of the Rampage tapings. And I actually got an account of somebody that was there, one of our listeners, who was in the front row, and not only got to witness it, but actually got to hear some of what was going on here. So what they wrote to me was that the match went around 10 to 15 minutes, called it a good match, said a lot of people around me were impressed by Atlas. Cole went for the Panama Sunrise, and there was an awkward delay when he was on the ropes. Cole dropped to the first, then back up to the second, and when he did the jump to set up the Destroyer, Atlas kind of crumbled. So Cole put him into a knee bar and said, "If you're hurt, tap," and Atlas tapped instantly. So that was
Wow.
his account from, he was like right there in the front row. So I guess it was audible enough that could hear this. So I was curious when we were hearing this in real time, when we were doing the show on Wednesday, like how long the match went. But if it went 10 to 15 minutes, I think certainly like this will air, and we'll see if they have to clean up the ending at all. But it seems like, there was an injury, so went to the knee bar and just like, let's wrap up the match.
Thank you so much to that fan for that report, even getting an airful of what Cole was said. And if that is indeed the case of what happened at the end of this match, thank goodness he was in there with somebody like an Adam Cole with those veteran instincts to be able to know exactly what to do in a situation like that. I mean, if I'm AEW, yeah, like if this much of the match went on, if you're promoting it as one of your big kind of events, I think you air it. It's unfortunate, but I think these things happen. You treat it as if the episode was live. And again, it sucks, but you can build off of it. Hopefully Jake Atlas can return in a shorter amount of time. But we don't know the extent of this one as much, do we, John?
No, yeah. So I'm still awaiting like the severity of the injury, but obviously, yes, we wish for a speedy recovery for both Phoenix and Jake Atlas. So that was a tough night for AEW. Unfortunately, this is stuff that is going to happen. On a more positive note, Roman Reigns has been cleared. WWE announced he will, in fact, be on SmackDown on Friday night at Mohegan Sun in Uncasville, Connecticut. And I guess this would give us a glimpse way, because WWE has not publicly stated their COVID protocols and what goes through. But this would certainly indicate, like, we can put the timeline together, that he tested positive on Saturday. Today, Thursday, would be day 6. So that would seem to be, 5 days, and then you test on day 6. And it appears that would have been the procedure here, that he is back on Friday.
Yeah, to me, the most important thing is to know that somebody who is immunocompromised, like a Roman Reigns, hasn't necessarily suffered anything too debilitating from this illness, and that he can even come back a week later. And perhaps obviously we should all still be, we don't know the long-term effects. We should be as safe as possible, but especially with vaccinations, like a positive diagnosis, it doesn't mean what it used to mean. So we'll see what shape he's in. We wonder if he'll do any sort of physical activity, or if it'll just strictly be a talking segment. Seems to indicate that that's probably what the case will be. But yeah, glad to hear he's safe.
Yeah, and how they proceed with this story. Like, it is like, certainly you can see the destination is Reigns and Lesnar, and like Lesnar winning the WWE championship. Is this just going to be a 4-week detour? We get the title back onto someone like Lashley, so it's back in the Raw mix, and Lesnar is focused on Reigns. That would be, I think, most people's assumption, is that the pivot here was putting the Raw title onto Lesnar, and that and then you get everything back on track on both brands, because you certainly see Lesnar and Reigns being the direction.
Well, what's up for Reigns in the immediate future?
Well, that's the question mark. How is he figured into the Rumble if Lesnar is tied up with Lashley? And how you go about this month? Like, you're doing this confrontation on Friday, but the focus is Lesnar and Lashley for the next 4 weeks. So you do kind of need that sort of buffer for Reigns, and that's going to have to be somebody out of left field, or that's thrown into the position. We're still awaiting an update on Drew McIntyre and what his situation is like after the injury angle last Saturday, because that might not be an option.
Yeah, I'd be slim pickings right now on the SmackDown side of things. So maybe it means somebody who isn't initially pegged for a championship run or a championship contendership will make that jump.
Raw numbers from Monday, they did 1,716,000 viewers. It's their best numbers of the year.
Oh, congratulations to them. I would hope so, John.
They were up 8% in viewership, up 11% in 18 to 49, with data coming from Brandon Thurston and Showbuzz Daily. And throughout the episode, we saw a very strong first hour, and this was overall their best viewership since October. I think it was the draft.
October 4th, Brandon says here.
Yeah, that was their highest total since the draft and highest 18 to 49 since November. So they certainly got a bump coming off of day one. And I think some of the news coming out of the show with Lesnar winning the title, appearing on Raw in that opening segment. And in Canada, they did a fantastic number, 235,000 viewers, 140,000 in the 25 to 54 demo. It was their most watched show in Canada since September. So it did seem that the buzz coming out of day one certainly contributed to heightened interest for a show that was going against Monday Night Football, and they will have the college football championship next Monday, and then an NFL playoff game, a rare Monday night playoff game in 2 weeks. So there will be heavy competition the next 2 weeks before football is off the charts for them. New Year's Evil did. Sorry, anything you want?
No,
to add?
nothing at all.
685,000 viewers for New Year's Evil, and they did the same demo rating as last week in the 18 to 49 number, although as Brandon breaks it down, it was actually down 5,000 viewers in 18 to 49. Females 18 to 49 were up, males in that demo down, 18 to 34 up slightly. But it was still the most watched episode since Halloween Havoc in October, but certainly not the bump I think you would have anticipated for this show that had been built up for multiple weeks. The rematch with Ciampa and Breakker, the inclusion of AJ Styles as well. Like from last week to this week, like it was a very small gain in overall viewership. And in 18 to 49, while very, very slight, it was in fact down from last week and doing a very normal number in Canada with 59,000 viewers.
Yeah, at this point, I mean, we're talking about a pretty loaded week on the wrestling schedule, and I didn't hear much buzz, honestly, about this, big championship match that culminated in a title win for NXT. Even coming out of it, I don't know if many people were talking about Bron Breakker winning the championship. I mean, I felt like much of the discussion over the past couple of days has been surrounding Wrestle Kingdom, surprisingly, and of course Hangman versus Danielson. So. Even when promoting a bigger than usual show, I mean, I wonder how big of a jump you can really see or expect.
What did you think of the show on Tuesday?
I overall enjoyed it. Like, I'm somebody who, again, I think has a different viewing of NXT. When I watch it, I don't really so much compare it to what it used to be or what it can be even. But I just kind of more so look at it as, hey, is it entertaining? Am I getting something out of it? At least even, from a grading standpoint of where these brand new talents are. But in this particular episode, I think you had some really strong wrestling, starting off with Carmelo Hayes versus Roderick Strong, who I think had a fantastic match together. It would have absolutely been a match that I think would have fit on a previous takeover. And then my interest kind of kept throughout because they went to a rare appearance from Walter teaming with Imperium versus MSK and Riddle, which I thought was a fantastic match and probably my match of the show, actually.
Yeah, I really enjoyed Roderick Strong and Carmelo Hayes off the bat. I thought Roderick Strong was they were both terrific in the match, but it really just watching Roderick Strong, he is a outstanding talent, and a six man that was great as well. Walter has gotten into some phenomenal shape. Like you can see, he is really like he's like got abs now.
He slimmed down drastically. Like he's standing next to Marcel Bartel, and I'm thinking these two are like a lot closer in size than I remembered. Like I remember Walter like really towering and like being bigger than the other dude. And I mean, I don't. I mean, Walter's great as always, and obviously, if the man's doing it for personal health reasons, then it's great. But I don't know. I kind of like a thicker Walter, like just and then you can clip that, Brandon. But like, I don't know. I'm not sure. I didn't mind. Walter being a bit bigger.
Well, it'll be curious to see like if he has an extended stay over here, and just given like situations like what his mindset is towards like being over here more, because that is a guy that, man, this main roster needs people badly, and he is someone that I think could instantly be plugged in to either side at this point. But that's obviously going to come at what he really wants, and if he wants to be over here.
When you see somebody like a Walter, and certainly the WWE is still, they've always been, but now especially they're on a major kick of hiring big guys. Does he fit the same mold as somebody like a Omos or Aziz, or
No.
Veer?
No, I
When what's
mean,
missing?
so I'm just saying, just in terms of like size, I think when you have guys like that, it kind of diminishes the size of a Walter.
Well,
In
I'm
terms,
saying if they're interested in picking up an Aziz, why wouldn't they be interested in picking up a Walter?
because he's not 7'2".
What? So what is he, like six,
Mm,
8, something like that?
I don't know if he's
He's
that tall.
close to it.
Yeah, he's no, he's absolutely got a presence. But it's always he's one that I don't know. I don't know how they would look at him. Um, yeah, in terms of like main roster, if he would stand out. Like sometimes you have giants in NXT and you put them on the main roster. Like Ridge Holland does not stand out as a big guy on SmackDown because that's just kind of the recruitment process. It's like you're going to have a lot of these bigger giants that are going to diminish others.
Okay, his listed Wikipedia weight height is 6'4", which is a lot shorter than I thought. So maybe it's just because he's usually wrestling smaller guys.
Well, there you have it. New Year's Evil, it, of course, culminated with Bron Breakker winning the NXT Championship. And I thought it was a mistake to not have the Rick Steiner celebration on the program itself. I think that would have been a cool moment to have. Instead, they just put it up online afterward. It's like everybody knows who this guy is. I don't think we're breaking from any kind of character destination here with Bron Breakker to acknowledge. I mean, we literally went off the show with Vic Joseph saying the pup has now become the dog face gremlin. I mean, can we be more clear about who his dad is? And I thought that would have been a cool way to end the show.
Absolutely. I mean, even his Twitter handle is Bronson Steiner. I mean, whatever. It's we all know it. I don't know if it's a legal issue or a technicality, or maybe they're choosing to hold off on the reveal, or maybe
Well, they did it. They did it on their YouTube. Like, does that not count?
Well, when I say reveal, I mean like the proper changing of the name. I don't know. It's the it's the least guarded secret I think in pro wrestling. I wouldn't even say it's a secret at all.
Yeah, I'm not even saying change his name at this point. Like, you're obviously dedicated to this Bron Breakker name. I'm just saying, like, we know that's his dad, and that's a cool moment. His dad was there in the arena, comes into the ring with his son. Like, what a cool way to end this show.
Yeah, it would have been. What do you think of the match?
I like the match. I think that it's, I kind of look at Bron Breakker and Jade Cargill in like kind of similar positions. Like, they are being given the ball with these championships and a lot is going to be on them. I think the best we have seen of Bron Breakker, like, let's look at who he has been paired with. He has been paired with the best guys, whether it is, Tommaso Ciampa or Roderick Strong. Like, he has been put in there with the guys that, are going to get the best out of him. And now he's in a position where, this is very early for him to get this. I thought they could have squeezed one more match with him and Ciampa and drawn it out, but obviously this was the end point, and it was only a question of when, not if, you put the title on Bron Breakker, and they think now is the timing. And so a lot is going to be on him. Like, he is front and center, the focus of this show. And I will say the destruction of that X, I think the timing of that was just, I mean, by the next day, that, like, could you be more blatant?
Yeah, I mean, I know it's the dude's character, I suppose, and this really, I think, was,
you know what? That's the thing, though.
but
It's not so much his character. It's like he's not out to destroy the old NXT. If anything, like, he stood up for the guys after War Games. Like, there has been a bit of that with like the younger guard. They position that for War Games, but like Bron Breakker has not been this guy that has been like out with the old, in with the new. And it did feel to me like when I watched it, I thought like this is like their version of like Cody destroying the throne.
yeah,
And
except it's their own thing now.
yeah, it's our
hilarious.
Creation that
They might as well have brought the same throne that Cody destroyed, and they could have used a sledgehammer too for that matter. Yeah, I mean, but I mean, symbolically, he is the representative of the 2.0 brand, complete with the colors and all in his tights. So for the amount of experience this man has had, for the amount of time he's actually been involved in professional wrestling, which from what I hear is like less than 2 years.
I think his first match was October of last year, or that's like when he got in.
That's insane.
Like, he's been in their system like just over a year, I believe.
Yeah. for him to be like this comfortable in a main event spot, yeah, Tommaso Ciampa is incredible. We don't take that away at all, but still, like, you know, we've seen people with a lot more experience, I think, look a lot worse against the people, the you know, a veteran like a Tommaso Ciampa. I think he's passing a lot of tests. This is, you know, being an NXT champion in 2.0, I think will mean very different from what it meant in the black and gold era. I mean, simply look at, you know, Mandy Rose, who they have different aims. They're completely different types of champions. And that match I didn't think was very good at all. But, you know, for a Bron Breakker, I think he's shown enough aptitude, both on the mic and in the ring, to be able to pull off this version of what a champion should be. And the fact that he's already had the belt, he already has been given the belt so quickly, makes me wonder how long they're planning on keeping him in NXT before bringing him up.
I mean, if they keep to the timing, the next draft will be around October. I'd be stunned if he's not on the main roster by this time next year.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. What do you think about Raquel Gonzalez? Because, you know, this women's division, like, the role is for Cora Jade now. And Raquel kind of feels as I could see them wrapping Raquel up with a loss to Cora Jade. And with the Rumble coming up, I could totally see Raquel Gonzalez, that being her entry point to one of the brands.
Well, listen, there's a free spot right now on SmackDown for somebody, and I think she's been ready for months. And staying in NXT, I don't think is doing anything for her. In fact, I think it's kind of harming her appeal. You know, always coming up short against Mandy Rose here. I thought she showed like her growth. I think has been really good. You know, since the time from when she wasn't champion to being champion to now feeling like a veteran of that match that she was in here, leading somebody like Cora Jade, and I would say even leading in some cases Mandy Rose. So I definitely think she's ready.
All right, we have a few super chats.
Yes, we do. Yeah. So super chat function is up anytime we are doing these live. And first of all, I want to highlight Jordan Stovra, who does not send a question, but simply sends a $7 super chat just to be supportive. So thank you very much, Jordan Stovra, a longtime supporter of Post Wrestling here. Let me just keep navigating here. And then we also have Jason Hagholm, another longtime supporter of Post Wrestling, who asks, where do you see Regal and Gabe going? Is GCW a fit?
I mean, I like going there. It's like,
as a booker, I don't think so. Like, I mean,
yeah, like as a booker, like GCW's got like they've got like a team in place. It's very difficult with the roles that they were handling. Listen, personally, you can look, and this would very much be contingent on what are AEW's long-term developmental plans. Like they have a pretty good system in place. It's not the level of an NXT, but with the Nightmare Factory and the talent that has come out of there, with QT, with Dustin's school, like they have like a really good like foundation that they have developed. I just look at someone like Regal, and there's just too much experience, too much of so many areas I think a guy like that could assist with, that has, you know, a total understanding of what the independent scene is, that could be very valuable at the level of Dark, and just somebody that I think could be a great coach and life coach for a lot of these young talents on top of it, that commands a ton of respect in the industry. That would be a placement. Like if I was AEW, Regal would be someone that I just see too many positives that we will find somewhere for this guy to go. And Gabe, it's a question. Like there's not, it's very different for wrestlers, where yes, companies are always going to have spots and spots of wrestlers. They might not always be infinite, but when it comes to behind the scenes and booking, like those are like, there's only so many spots in this industry. You look at like the number of head coaches in a major sports league. Well, bookers in pro wrestling, it's a fraction of that.
Yeah. I mean, there are going to be, you know, some smaller independents out there that I think would be able to really benefit from, I think, the name recognition of somebody like a Gabe Sapolsky. You know, if some unknown indie out there is trying to struggle to, you know, get talked about and get some headlines, being able to say, hey, Gabe Sapolsky is now helping us with our stories, like a Gabe that's able to kind of, you know, freely roam, I think will spark some interest from the audience right now. So, but you know, something on the level of like what he's leaving right now in NXT and WWE, no, there's really nothing out there. Let's go to Jordan Stover, who actually does send a question this time. So he sends another super chat. Thank you for the support. He asks, I'm wondering if John knows anything about the absence of Smash Wrestling. No social media updates since June of 2020 and no news about it being sold. And for people unaware, Smash Wrestling is the local independent wrestling promotion, is one of several, but I would say maybe one of the ones with the more public recognition here in Toronto. But yeah, any updates, John?
Yeah, it's something like over, really since that big SummerSlam weekend where it was like all these shows running. After that, like it seemed like they had less of a presence, and then the pandemic hit, and it's number one. I don't even know what the incentive is to be running at this point. Like things are like if you're not in the province of Ontario, like it is. Like there's a lot of restrictions that I don't even know if it's worth your while to be trying to run an independent show looking for any kind of profit to be garnered at this point. Like it's not going to be worth your while through all the headaches. I will try and find out more about Smash Wrestling, but I would honestly imagine like asking an indie company at this point, what are your plans? Like who knows at this point? I don't like, a lot independence. It's usually a labor of love for these promoters. It's not going to be their primary money that they are earning. And right now that incentive I don't think is there to rush back for any of these companies, even though there are some shows going on in town.
And that is it. Thank you everybody for joining us. If you tuned in live today, 1:00 Eastern time, every single weekday. I know we took a bit of a hiatus last week, and then for the past couple weeks covering Wrestle Kingdom, or a couple days covering Wrestle Kingdom, but we're back for good. Every single weekday, we will be here, 1:00, youtube.com/postwrestling. Give us a subscribe. And of course, if you're a patron, patreon.com/postwrestling, you get audio from these podcasts every single day, right in your podcast player of choice.
Yes, and we have 2 reviews for patrons covering both nights of Wrestle Kingdom at the Tokyo Dome. A third one will drop Saturday with WH Park and Mike Murray reviewing the New Japan versus Noah card. As for Wai and I, we will be back Friday live at this same time on YouTube, and then Friday night with Rewind to SmackDown as we will opening the phone lines and chat SmackDown and Rampage. And a big weekend ahead. We are going to have Kate from Montreal and Wai reviewing Battle of the Belts on Saturday night. Davey Portman and John Cena will have a Hard to Kill post show that will be available on the Up Next feed. So check that out Saturday night. And then Sunday, a doubleheader, the NWA podcast with Nate, Chris, and Andrew chatting all of the latest news. And there is no shortage of it. And then WrestleNomics Radio on Sunday night. Tons to look forward to at postwrestling.com. So thank you to everybody for joining us live or listening after the fact. And we will speak with you on Friday.